Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us at the Campagnola GFNY World Championships in New York City. My name is Gabe Lloyd.
And I'm Dan Schmaltz.
Thank you for joining us here this morning. We've got some amazing racing underway here. They just left the George Washington Bridge under cloudy skies, slightly windy conditions, but the attacks are happening right off the front right already, Dan. Dan, let's talk about what the course is and some of our favorites for today.
Returning champ Riccardo Pachetta, who is Italian but lives in Brazil, is returning this year, and he is wearing bib number 2. So we'll be looking out for him today, as is Camila Cortez, who is from Colombia. There's a big Colombian contingent that comes to the GFNY every year. So they are returning. And we have local hotshots from New York City. We have Mike Marguerite, who won in 2015, Fort Lee Police Department. It'll be great. Everyone's invited.
They will love it. Pulled pork all around, courtesy of Dan.
Yes. So the riders are out on the course. They're doing River Road right now, which is a familiar route to New York City racers. This is where everybody goes and trains and finds the hills that are within a half-hour's ride from Midtown Manhattan. They are going to hit at about 15K. They're going to hit what's called the Ranger Station climb, which is about a mile-long climb. Most of the racers in New York City usually go here and do hill repeats. So they know this climb well. They can probably close their eyes and maybe not make an etching of it, but do a really solid watercolor if they had to. Watercolor,
yes. Exactly right, because they know it, but they don't know exactly what's going to come at them, and that's a lovely nature of racing bikes. When you race bikes all day long, you never know what's going to happen. You must pedal your bike every step of the way, because let's talk about some past races, Dan. Last year, local favorite Mike Marguerite, he is a past champion here, but he did not do well last year because he was involved in a crash early on, so he was not able to make the split that was very decisive. So this year he hopes to stay out of trouble. He brought a lot of teammates along this year to try to make sure that he stays safe and can make the split that's going to be happening at some point, because we have a long way to go today. Our courses are 100 miles for half of our field, and then a 50-mile ride for the other half. What we're seeing on course right now with our live cameras, if you jump onto gfny.com/live, where you see us maybe right now.
/live test.
Or /live test.
Yes, all one word.
All one word?
Yes.
When you see those streams on the website, you'll see where we're seeing riders right now. They're by the boat basin as we speak. These riders will be doing the 100-mile course. That means they got 50 miles up to Bear Mountain and then 50 miles back through New Jersey.
Yes.
Dan, let's talk about the climbs that will take place throughout that day.
Bear Mountain, about 4 miles long, and it's right at the middle of the race. It's the turnaround point. It's where you go as far north as you're going to go. You go up that climb, and it goes up to the top of Perkins. It's the name of the road, Perkins Road. And you turn around, you come right back down. So you're passing people that are going up the hill as you go down. And it's a screaming descent. If you want to be brave, you can. So if you don't want to be brave, you might be dropped from the pack. But there's a sheer drop, and mostly in between you and the sheer drop on the side as you descend are some big, large rocks, and over the other side of that, there be monsters. You're going to just fall right off the side.
Absolutely. It's New York.
Yeah.
Or New Jersey. Where are we in that?
We are in New York at that point.
Okay.
We are passing through New Jersey right now, and after we get to the Ranger Station, we're going to cross the state line, and we're going to go into New York. Usually there's a sprint. Local racers go along 9W, and they sprint along for the state line sprint, and you get to be the king of the coffee shop for the morning.
But there's no official sprint today?
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Well, they might just do it out of old-fashioned just
habit.
Yeah, I'm assuming somebody from New York is going to go sprint for that, and then they're going to turn next to the guy from Brazil to them, and the guy's going to go, okay, why'd you do that? What's up? But you didn't win anything.
Exactly, but as far as our GFNY World Championship event is concerned, it's going to be a non-sprint location.
Yeah, we're being visited by local ace photographer Marco Pizzata. Are you going to be out on the course today, Marco? Say it louder.
On course.
Yes.
Okay.
See.
He's going to be out on course. He's going to be photographing what happens today. He has the easiest job of all. Photographers, they just go take pictures.
So easy.
They don't have to talk all day.
They just get in the shot.
Yeah. And if he misses the finish, he just borrows someone else's photograph and puts it up on his Facebook feed. Yeah. Well done, Marco. We're on to you. So right now, the race is on River Road, as we were saying before, and we're at about 7:13. So we're going to be hitting the Ranger Station climb soon.
That's right.
when they get to the ranger station climb, in years past, Gabby Epstein, who's a local racer, he pushed it on ranger station and stayed away for the rest of the day in a small group. So last year it wasn't decisive, but it is a piece of elevation that can be decisive. So
Absolutely.
It's a point where you maybe can lose it
You
if
could.
you don't make the split.
Right, sure, but it is still a really long way to go. So we start at the George Washington Bridge, and we roll out, and then we hit the Henry Hudson Drive on the far side. So if you're following along on the official GFNY course routes,
Yes.
those are the mile markers that you're going to see. And then we're starting at the Alpine climb, which is not yet, right? Is that
Right.
correct, Dan?
We're not there yet.
And then after Alpine, we're at New York, New Jersey state line. So those are some of the things that Dan has been talking about. Still, as you can see on our mile marker counts, very, very early. If you prefer kilometers, still very early. Does not matter the metric unit that you're using.
Yeah, we're using kilometers today because it's a bike race.
Because it's bike races.
Yeah.
Because we are part of our Italian heritage here of the
Yeah.
GFNY World Championships.
Mhm.
So even though we are in New York City where we started this premier event on the GFNY World Series of cycling, so we've got the GFNY World Championship Series goes through 17 countries this year. New York City is the World Championship event. It is the premier stop, and it is where everybody actually wants to win. That's why we
Yes.
have riders from 95 different countries here today, all going for the win, and that's why you're seeing the pace so high right now from our front group, even though they have around 90 miles still to go.
Yeah. And when you're on River Road, we don't mean to mischaracterize this. There are climbs before you get to the ranger station climb.
Absolutely.
It goes up and down, and it goes up and down. You're never going to feel like it's a flat ride if you're on River Road. But for this level of racer, you're going to need some elevation to make something decisive happen.
Sure, and I think it's also interesting to talk about the teamwork that goes into being a successful athlete at an event like a GFNY, because the courses are so challenging. So as Dan just stated, even though some of the climbs are, only a few of the climbs are rated, or only a few of the climbs are actually mentioned on our course sheet, the entire course is very challenging. It's not like it's pancake flat between any of these. All day long, it's up and down, and that means a lot of teams are going to come into the fold here. We've got a lot of local riders, but we have a lot of riders from Brazil and Colombia also joining in. And speaking of which, if you are from Brazil or Colombia and you're watching us right now, you would like us to give a shout out to any of your friends, mention me on Twitter at Gabe Lloyd, mention Dan at what?
NY Velocity.
There it is, NY Velocity. And then we will do our best to reach out to your friends and let them know that we are paying attention. And thank you for joining us from around the world, by the way. Again, 95 different countries are racing. We hope that you've tuned in to watch your friends from around the world. We'll do our very best to reach out to them as well. So Dan, right now, it looks like on the feed we are on River Road. A lot of up and down still. And as far as I can tell, it looks like the pack is together. So does that mean that there are teams working right now to keep it together, or do you think that the pace overall is just high? What do you think the race dynamic is?
I would think early in the race, since this is a marathon, and I mean that not in a distance point of view, but it's different from a normal bike race in that you corral the elite riders at the front, and then you have everyone else behind you. So at the front, there's going to be 200, 300, 400 people that are at the front that are supposed to be the fast people. And then you have everyone else behind. So what will happen in the early parts of the Gran Fondo is that people will push it on River Road just to figure out who can hang. So once you get to Ranger Station, you're going to have people just going up to the front and saying, let's hit it at the Ranger Station and see who's still left. Let's maybe winnow this down to 50. Let's make it 100 people. Let's make it a bike race that makes sense. Let's not try to race 5,000 people, because that's really hard.
Right.
And they're all wearing green. So that makes it difficult. Usually in a bike race, people have on different jerseys. You know who's from which team. So the local guys, I talked to my teammate Victor, who is really going to win today. So, you know, the fix isn't in, but it's good. Yeah, it's good. But he told me that he memorized what everyone else was wearing, the people that were his rivals. He found out what their numbers were. He found out what their socks looked like, what their gloves looked like.
Sock game.
What kind of bikes they were riding. So that made a big difference.
Absolutely. A prepared bike racer is usually a successful bike racer but it is still racing. Anything can happen, and a lot of times in a large-scale event like this, you can have riders that you've never heard of who are very competitive and end up being very much a factor. So even though we have a lot of athletes here that we will be talking about throughout the day because of their past success in GFNY events throughout the world, including winners of European, Middle Eastern, and Caribbean and South American events, because we have 17 stops on this series, there could still be an unknown quantity coming out and being a factor from these groups.
Yes, and we do have two pros that are visiting and our guests. We have Louis Lemos and we have Dan Craven. Louis rides for the Israeli Cycling Academy team, which is right now doing the Giro d'Italia, which I've heard of.
I've heard of the Giro.
Yeah, it's a bike race that they have in Italy for hundreds of years. And
Hundreds.
Yeah, so it goes back to
Roman times.
Yeah, they basically rode over the Via Roma. So Nero was at the first one. Nero was the first winner. They always had the emperors win first.
Always.
Yada yada.
Yeah.
But he's here, as is Dan Craven, who was on the Israeli cycling team last year. Now he's on a German team, concentrating on African events because Dan is from Namibia.
That's right. Dan is best known in America, at least, because he was live tweeting from the peloton of the Olympics in Rio in 2016. He caused quite the Twitter storm, if you will, because people thought he was live tweeting because he wasn't necessarily at the front of the race, and he was still giving us race updates that we thought could only be possible from within the peloton. Turns out Dan has multiple friends outside of the peloton, but nevertheless, he is very accomplished. He just won the UCI 2.2 Tour de Senegal in Africa, I believe. So that means he's coming into this race with a lot of form. We'll look for that big beard coming to the front of the race a little bit later on, I think, though, because we have a long way to go. So again, a 100-mile course, the second half of which is the most challenging.
I talked to Dan on Friday evening at the welcome dinner, and he did have 2 bottles of Chianti, so that's secret information. He didn't have 2 bottles, he had 2 glasses. He might have had 2 bottles later, but I didn't see that. He had 2 glasses to start with.
Was it 2 bottles of this beautiful select sponsor wine?
Should have been.
It should have been, and I bet it was.
Yeah, it was.
Thank you very much for this beautiful wine.
And while we're talking about it, this is Cafe de GFNY coffee that we're drinking today. Cheers, Gabe.
Cheers.
Yeah. It's a party in a cup, and it's caffeinated, and I'm going to drink enough to levitate today because we got up early.
Yes, we did. We've been here for a little while, and thank you for just joining us if you just did so. We have a long day of racing ahead of us, and right now, it looks like our riders are still on River Road, so we still have a long ways to go. And the first major climb on River Road, Dan, that is what I used to call the boat basin to the ranger station.
Yes.
So for me, that used to be where we would do intervals. Turns out that's a very early spot. I believe Gabe Epstein at one point did that. Can you talk about that a little bit?
When Gabe was in the break, and I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago, Gabe pushed the pace on River Road and was able to get a group. And this is this is a mystery race. You never know who's going to be fast, you know. You can try to figure out who's fast. Maybe if you're going to do the perfect psych-out job, you just don't shave your legs.
Yep.
If you want to be really smart about this, don't shave your legs.
Covert operation.
Yes. You take your chain ring, you put a big old tattoo on there.
Just like sleep with your bike the night before so you're covered in chain rings.
Yes.
No one will know that you're fast.
Completely covert action. You get your Fred tattoo on there, you're ready to go, and then you just take off. So Gabe took off early, and maybe people didn't know who he was, but he was a pro with the Garmin development team.
Yeah.
So he's like a fast person.
He is.
So when a fast person goes, you don't necessarily know who it is, especially if you're coming from Germany, Portugal, Spain, Italy, you know. You just don't know who's going to be
95 countries here today, in fact. So there are so many different athletes from around the world that it is really hard to keep track of who is who. So a lot of the local athletes are having a lot of they have a lot of advantage over some of the athletes from different countries, because the local athletes, such as the Weather Channel team or even the Rockstar Games team, those two teams are going to have a lot of insight around these courses, because as Dan spoke about earlier, while they may not be able to draw the course specifically, they could probably do a pretty good watercolor. I love that analogy. because I find it to be very true. They know enough about this course to just know the nuances, so they know when the good times are to attack versus times that maybe aren't the smartest, but some of the athletes that are not from around here would maybe choose to do so. So we're going to see a lot of tactics happening here today.
Right now, if you go to the video of the lead car, you're going to see local rider Bill Ash, who hails from Philadelphia originally and lives and works in New York City right now. He rides for the Foundation team, and this happened last year. Bill Ash went out early and was eventually caught, but Bill is like a local Sasquatch. You know, you never know what's going to happen. You hear rumors about him. Bill,
I've never actually seen him.
Exactly.
Just pictures.
And Bill, for his birthday, went out for a ride. I think he turned 23, 25, so he's a younger rider. And he rode from New York City to Boston, so which is a couple 100 miles.
By choice?
Yeah, by choice. This was his birthday ride. And I did eventually sneak onto Strava to find out what happened. He rode by himself from New York to Boston, and he averaged over 20 miles an hour the whole time.
What?
So Bill Ash can go long.
Wow. So what we're seeing, so you're saying that Bill Ash is currently off the front by himself.
He is.
In front of an entire peloton of riders, including the likes of Mike Marguerite.
Yes.
Wow.
And Bill Ash has a team here supporting him from Foundation. Foundation is one of the larger New York City teams. They're going to have about 6 or 7 riders. They have a rider named Barish Aitan, who is a phenomenal racer. He's won a couple races this year. He's not necessarily a pure climber. He's a bigger guy, so he does well in New York City. He has a great 7 or 8 minute effort.
Wow.
So he might be able to get up there, but they're putting Bill Ash out front, and they have another rider, Will Downing, who was in the top 5 at Bear Mountain last week. And they had a race up where this race is turning around on Bear Mountain. They had a race last week. So the top 5 was Victor Gross, my teammate, and it was Will Downing, and Mike Marguerite was there. So they're all in shape. They're all doing that same sort of race, and that was about, I think it was a 70-mile race. So it's a general same distance as what was happening before.
Right, so just to clarify for those of you who are not from the area, the Bear Mountain Classic is a local race where they do laps of the Bear Mountain area, right? And so they're basically doing some of what we are going to be racing on here today at the Campagnolo GFNY World Championships multiple times. So it's not exactly what we're doing here today, but it is a great indication of form because they are hitting some of the decisive moments of today's race multiple times and then having to sprint after hitting those climbs. So it's going to be really interesting to use that local race and see how it compares against today's efforts by some of the athletes that we're going to be looking at.
And Bill Ash is now just at the top of the Ranger Station climb.
Wow.
So we're not sure about the gap that's behind him, but I can't see anyone anywhere, so that usually means that it's at least a 30-second gap. So, like I said, Bill Ash is not afraid. He will go out, he will stay out, he'll see who can come up to him, and then if they come up to him and they want to work, let's party.
Right, so that was the tactic, actually, that I used to have to employ because I was not necessarily a great climber, so if I entered a road race that had a lot of climbing, I would try to attack early to allow the stronger riders to come up to me. So then I didn't have to go hard in the peloton when everybody else is going hard. I could go early, ride my own pace, ride where I was comfortable. Once the strong riders got up to me, then I could integrate with them once it had smoothed out a bit. So maybe that's what Bill is trying to do today, because I can't imagine that a single rider can stay out on a course like this for an entire 100 miles.
If Bill were able to do that, that would be a Paul Bunyan-esque, you know, mythical ride.
Sasquatch level.
Sasquatch level. Maybe a Yeti, but that would be pretty incredible. I would think that Foundation is putting him out front to start to rip the race apart to see what's going to happen.
Right. So I believe, so right now, Dan, I think we are 15 kilometers into our event?
We are 15 kilometers in.
All right. So we're about 15 Ks into
160.
Our 160K event. So still very, very early. A lot of stuff can still happen.
Yes.
And it does look like to me so we have 2 screens in front of us. One of them is the moto of their lead rider, Bill, and the other is sort of the peloton. It's very spread out, which of course means that the pace is very high. So if you're at gfny.com/live test or gfny/live, either one of those, we will see a lot of action happening, a lot of riders being dropped now, which is interesting because these are all the riders that were the favorites, the pre-race favorites. who came in who were going to supposedly be competitive
Yes.
throughout the day.
Yes, and to be honest, there's going to be a lot of misplaced optimism in this front group right now. So there's going to be people who are going out very hard and seeing if they can hang and discovering they can't. So there's going to be like little mushroom clouds of green jerseys that are falling off the pace.
Are you guys getting a call from, did either of you get a call from Uli?
I did get a call.
Yeah, you want to give him a call back? Get some updates.
Right.
All right.
I'm going to get a call from Uli,
You
and
can do it
Gabe's
on
going to be
camera.
talking.
You can do it.
Oh,
I think
good.
it's-
Can I put him on
Speakerphone? We're gonna go. We're gonna do this.
Dan,
Uli, how are you?
We're
We're on
live.
camera right now.
We're
We
on
have you on
camera
speakerphone.
it's Alex. I'm just going to update you guys. So we're in the lead car, and we're also live on our. We just had Bill Ash, number 35.
Yes.
Bill Ash, number 35, at least a minute ahead of the chaser. And then we're going to get. Lily, do we have a number on the chaser?
We see the group coming behind, so there's one chaser off the front, solo.
Yeah, well, so we have Bill Ash a minute ahead of everybody. He's doing a solo flyer off the front.
Mm-hmm.
And then who is it from Bogota? Gabriel Corredor, previous champion, in second place. And then the chase guy, he's just getting swallowed up by the chase guy. So there's a large peloton.
We have Gabriel Corredor just dangling off the front, according to the information that's just coming off the phone. He is a previous winner.
He got just swallowed up, and now we've got a very large peloton. We can't quite identify who's leading it, but these guys are all working together in a single line, moving up.
How big would you estimate the peloton size to be?
Peloton, we're talking probably 50, 60 riders at this point.
Gotcha.
Very sizable peloton. But
And it
Bill
looks like
Ash-
it looks like it's split up on the Ranger Station climb. Is that correct?
Bill Ash took off right on River Road, right from
Yeah.
the get-go, and has
Mhm.
been leading. Here's a little side note. Last year,
Side note.
on Bear Mountain Climb, Bill Ash dropped his chain.
Hmm.
He was
Wow.
already fading, dropped the chain, and that was it for him. He struggled home, but he's the same thing. His strategy seems to be go as hard as you can, as long as you can.
Yes.
And didn't pay off for him last year, but who knows? But he's gone up the road in the fog.
Bill is off in the mist, everyone.
No one can
Gone
see
in
him.
the mist.
He's off in the mist. He's doing his best.
Like a
We're going to cut
Sasquatch.
for every. So we're hitting 0 views here, but you guys can. Our camera may not be working, but I'm just telling you. All I see is misty road and a very large. We dropped back from the lead car just so we can see where the peloton is. No sign of Bill. He's way up the road.
That's
He's way
fantastic.
up the road.
Who are the two riders?
Who are the two chasers? Can you tell? There's a split.
Well, no, the chasers have been swallowed, so we've
No.
got Bill on soloing up the front.
We have some attacks happening off the front right now, though,
we've got,
that we see.
Yeah, we have 3 riders split from the front of the
Yeah.
peloton.
He's on the
Okay,
motorcycle.
Okay, so maybe if you can get those numbers from
We would love
from
to.
the start
We would love
list,
Yeah.
or you can, if you give me numbers, I can also tell you who that is.
We're going to try.
We'll try, but we'll join up with you a little bit later, I think, once we get some IDs on
Yeah,
this.
once we'll try to get some IDs. We're kind of working in the Dream Lens level resolution here,
Yeah.
but we will see what we can do. So,
No, it's like a misty wonderland up here. We can barely see anything ourselves. So.
it is.
All right, good luck, guys.
All right, call back when something happens. Let us know.
All right.
Thank you, Alex.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Alex.
Okay, bye.
All right, Bill Ash.
Bill Ash.
So Bill Ash has jumped into the telephone booth. He's going to see if Superman comes out. We don't know.
That's right. So the summary of what Alex was telling us is that Bill attacked early, and he's actually using the weather to his advantage. So what's happening in New York City here today is that there was a lot of rain the past week, really. There was continuous rainfall. The ground is very saturated. But what's happening is a large warm front is coming up from the south. That's bringing a lot of hot air into the region and is creating a lot of dense fog. So currently the peloton cannot see Bill Ash because of the density of the fog and the distance of his gap. So even though his gap is honestly relatively small, it's only about a minute, nobody can see him. When you're out of sight, you're often out of mind
Absolutely.
in a bike race, especially early. So there's a good chance that a lot of the athletes in the peloton have no idea that Bill is even off the front.
And unlike professional races, there's no radios here. There's no team car. There's no... You only know what you've seen and what someone else can tell you has happened. In a normal bike race in New York City, if Bill Ash were off the front and people knew about it, that would be an alarm going off. People know
Absolutely.
Bill. Bill's done this to us before. It's been pretty dreadful when he's done this to us before. So
Sure.
we know from experience that Bill can stay away. So either they're waiting to see what happens, or they're trying to attack and put together a group to get up to Bill. But if they know that Bill is off the front, they're not going to let that happen.
And I do think that that is exactly what's happening right now, Dan. I'm looking at one of our cameras here.
Yeah.
I believe I'm seeing around 5 to 6 riders separating themselves. They are on 9W headed north, getting very close to the New Jersey-New York border. So if you know where that is on our course line,
Yes.
that's around 23 kilometers in. They are just before that right now, but the attacks are happening, and we are starting to see real splits occurring. Hopefully, what we will see are some of our local favorites contending with our contingency from Colombia and Brazil, because those riders are going to be the ones that are going to make some decisions.
In that following week group, we have one of Bill Ash's teammates from Foundation. So obviously they're putting riders into the second group to cover. I would not expect that Foundation rider to work. I would expect him to sit in and be dragged up. That looks like Ralph Pallmeyer right there. So we have an attack on Ralph. Ralph is in the red helmet, so they're going up the road. Ralph, very big, very strong, big motor guy. Not somebody who you would usually think is going to get to Bear Mountain and prance away from everybody, but he's got a lot of power. So if they put him in this move to cover what's going on right now, that is a good move for Foundation. If they can get 2 guys up there, if they can get Ralph up to Bill, hey, let's party. Let's see what happens. So.
And as you're checking out the stream and looking at the race action that's happening here, where we're seeing these splits, you also notice on the side of the road there's a lot of branding occurring on the guardrails and everything else. That's because part of the Campagnolo GFNY World Championship, everybody gets to be a pro for a day. That's a really cool aspect of this, where the organizers use basically the model of a marathon, where everybody starts together, including men and women. So men and women started together here today, and everybody will do the same course at the same time. We use timing chips to determine who is finishing at different rates, but the front of the race is considered like a normal bike race.
Yes.
So the first rider across the line will be the winner at the end of the day. It's a very interesting format here in America, but in Europe and in South America, it's much more common, and that's exactly why the GFNY series has 17 stops around the world this year, and that's why we are seeing so many athletes from 95 different countries joining us in New York City here today for what is the World Championship event.
Okay, out on the road, this second group, I'm counting 5 riders. We have one of the Weather Channel riders there. His name is Conrad, and I'm losing Conrad's last right now. We'll figure it out. And we have Ralph, and we have 3 others. So we would love to get the composition of what's going on there. The Weather Channel, if they're chasing hard, that's something that's going to play into the hands of who I would, Mike Marguerite, who I would assume is in the pack following behind. There's a pack of 50 or 60 racers behind. There's Bill Ash out by himself, and there's about 5 riders behind. So we have 2 of the New York teams. We have Foundation, who is the teammate, Ralph Pallmeyer, who is a teammate of Bill Ash. And then we do have Conrad, who is working maybe for himself. If he gets out there and they get a gap, he can just go. He doesn't have to work for Mike Marguerite all day.
That's, of course, true. You know, once you get a gap in a bike race like this, I think it's important to just take advantage of that gap. And it'll be interesting to see if the riders agree with that sentiment or not. You know, being able to think about, okay, so I've got this gap, and what am I going to do with it? Some riders will choose to work for their teammates behind them, which means that they're just going to sit in that break and stay away. Versus some riders are going to take advantage of it for themselves and push the pace if they do in fact have that gap. So we'll see what's going to happen here. Again, you know, the basics of bike racing are going to be happening here, even though we are in our cycling marathon, where this group of 5 or 6, they will eventually catch Bill Ash. It's just a matter of when. And also, I will be very interested to see if Bill Ash will be smart and just sit up and let this group catch him, and then thereby saving himself a lot of valuable energy.
Yes, and the thing is that Bill doesn't know what's going on. Bill can't see far enough behind him. When they do come into view because of the conditions today, because of the fog, he's not going to know that they're coming up to him until they're about maybe 15 seconds behind him. So it could be that Bill decides to turn around. I've never known Bill to turn around. Once Bill puts down his head and turns on the idiot switch, he's just going to go. He just doesn't stop. So I don't think that he's going to wait for them. I think that they are going to make their way up to him.
Sure, and that could very well, if that is his tactic, then he will definitely employ that. Bike racers are very rarely going to all of a sudden employ a different tactic that they're not familiar with or comfortable with throughout the day. But, going into a 100-mile course with a lot of undulation, very tricky, and of course wind and everything else are going to continue to be a factor throughout the day as that warm front comes in and overlaps with the cold ground that is currently in New York.
Yes, and right now we have a headwind for 40 miles, 50 miles.
Yeah, definitely, and after you've gone through a lot of our rated climbs, in fact, then your legs are really going to be feeling that effort throughout the day, and it's going to be very challenging for any athlete to stay out
We have
by
a crash.
themselves. Oh, wow.
We have a crash, and it's from Foundation. So
Was this Bill, or is this...
that's Bill.
Wow.
Uh-oh. Bill Ash has some sort of issue, so he's down on the road. That could have been a crash coming through a corner because it is wet out there. Bill's back on his bike, and this is a second year of bad... Oh, no, Bill's got to pull over to the side, so hopefully we can get a shot of what's going on with Bill right now.
Right, so...
That is a heartbreaker.
Absolutely. So as Alex was telling us when he called us from the car last year, Bill dropped his chain on Bear Mountain. Looks like this year Bill has crashed. He has got some sort of mechanical right now. He has been on and off his bike multiple times. We are going...
We're calling Alex right now.
Back to Alex.
Hey, what happened? Did Bill crash?
Bill Ash crashed.
In the corner?
Yeah, it's really, it was pretty slippery around the corner, and he just went right off the road. Got back on the bike, but he seems to be having a mechanical.
Oh, that's brutal.
Seems to be okay, but
Yeah.
we're not sure where he's. We had to get out of the way because that chase pack of a huge chase pack is going to come barreling through that corner, and we could get trapped in there.
How many
There's
are...
a chasing pack of about 5 that the lead moto is following. If you guys could get us those numbers, I do know that there's a couple numbers that I can pick out. It seems like 2 New York guys and then about 3 guys from other places. So if you could get us those numbers, that'd be fantastic. And that's just a heartbreaker for Bill.
Yeah.
So-
I'm sorry, Dan. I can't actually. If you give me numbers, I can tell you who they are. But I
Awesome.
am so far up the road now. I have no idea who's unfortunately who's in that pack.
No problem. We'll start to pick who's going through there, and we'll see if they grab Bill up soon. But thanks for the update. We'll be back in touch.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you, Alex. So, brutal.
Brutal, absolutely. So just if you're following along with the GFNY World Championship course profiles that are available online, we have gone through the Alpine class as far as our first group is concerned. We do have thousands of athletes on course right now, though, and there are thousands of athletes that are probably on Alpine climb.
Yes.
So if you want to track athletes, I believe we still have that capability.
I think so. It is beyond my technical expertise right now.
So if you have the technical expertise that maybe we don't have in the booth,
I'm a dumb guy, Gabe.
there's only so much the
Yeah.
internet can tell us in here right now.
It's true.
So you can track athletes as far as we were told, and you can follow along with your friends and your family. Again, if you would like to reach out to us, I'm Gabe Lloyd on Twitter. Dan is NY Velocity.
NY Velocity, yes.
That's right. So we have gone through the Alpine climb, and as far as the next rated climb is concerned for our Campagnolo GFNY World Championship New York course, the next rated climb is going to be Bear Mountain.
Yes.
So Bear Mountain, but that's still a long ways away. I mean, we need to go through Nyack, Rockland Lake, Haverstraw, a number of other decisive areas on our course.
And actually, as you come to Bear Mountain, there is a climb before the climb that happens at about 61K. So that's a hill that can be decisive. So you can actually attack on that hill, go downhill, go into Bear Mountain, head up there, and see what happens. So there are opportunities coming. I would think that things have kind of settled down now. I would think that that second group is going to be seeing what's going to see how it goes, see if they can catch up Bill. And we'll see what's happening with Bill. We'll see if Bill's still off the front, see if he stays there. You never know. Bill might just have that adrenaline rush from falling down, and he's like disappointed, and maybe he's gotten over it.
That's a great point, Dan. I mean, the adrenaline rush from crashing when you feel like you're having a good day can really actually become an advantage for you. So you know that you've got riders behind you like Dan Craven. You've got some the Mexican professional Luis Lemos.
Lemos.
Lemos. you know, riders like that behind him, he knows that he wants to keep an advantage over before he gets to the larger climbs of the day. So that adrenaline may help him. When we get updates from the field, we'll let you know where Bill is going and if he's been absorbed by the following 6 that we can see chasing right now.
And as we're looking through here, this is very obviously Piermont. You probably recognize these roads that we're going through right here.
I do.
This is the coffee run that everybody goes to, that goes up to the Runcible Spoon, or they go to the donut place.
The donut place and the Runcible Spoon. There's Runcible Spoon bonus.
Yes.
No.
There is no cycling without pastry, and this ride is no different, but these guys aren't going to stop. They're not going to stop for any pastry or coffee or anything whatsoever.
No.
So,
although they could stop for some amazing GFNY coffee today.
Yes, they could.
Delicious.
Delicious. It's keeping me alive right now. And being able to talk to Gabe because of coffee.
It's the only way he can stand me.
Yeah. I owe coffee a lot, and that's one of the things I do owe. Otherwise, there would be terrible things going on.
Terrible.
Yes.
I'd be out of the picture.
So we're still trying to see if Bill has been caught up by the chasing group. It looks like we're at a group of about 6. So I am not sure if they've caught Bill Ash. If
Really
so,
no idea.
but Foundation has played this pretty well so far because they do have Ralph in that group with Bill.
Right.
So if he comes back, they could be together. They could work together. Things can happen.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that can happen here as we have